Hey guys, welcome to my very late final wrap-up of 2019. I know we're like 2 weeks into 2020, but I almost said 2018, but 2020. It's hard to believe 2019 went by so quickly. I mean, granted, I spent like 4 months in a hospital, so 2019 was just kind of hectic and all over the place for me. And if you're wondering why I'm holding my phone, it's because one of the books I actually read, the final book I read for 2019, was actually this manga called An Even More Beautiful Lie by Kenny. I can't say the name. I totally screwed up on that last name. But yeah, this is on my Overdrive account, which if you don't know what Overdrive is, it's basically where, I don't know if it's in other states, but at least in Kentucky, it's, I'm pretty sure it's in other states too, it's not just Kentucky, but it's like a big like collection of different libraries, and each of them have like audiobooks and ebooks on just this one site. So that book I borrowed could have been from like a library like at least 50 miles from me. It didn't have to be my own my own library. As long as I have a library card and can get onto the account, we're good. Also, before anyone asks, you're not going to see Cinder in this wrap up because I'm actually working on Cinder. I have the audiobook right there. I am pretty much like halfway through the book. I'm loving it so far, though it doesn't seem like a Cinderella retelling to me. It's more like a Sailor Moon retelling, which I'm kind of loving. I much prefer it over Cinderella, but that's more because I'm an anime nerd than anything. And also, before I get started, there's a lot of books in this wrap up. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 books, not counting the manga I read. So I actually can't remember when I last did a wrap up. I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't remember like all of the like initial feelings I had for these books, and I don't really remember like all the like key details that I could have talked about when I first read the books. So some of these I'm not going to talk very much about. I'm going to try to talk about them as much as I can without being like over the top about it. But yeah, it's been a while since I've read some of these books, and I feel really bad that I haven't done a wrap up until now. I think in 2020 I'm going to be better about that. Probably like every 4 books I'll do a wrap up, or if I'm like doing a series, instead of doing a wrap up I'll do like a series review or something. I don't know, I may switch it up because honestly waiting this long to do a wrap up is just no. I can't do this anymore. But enough talking, let's get on with the wrap up. I'll start with the last book I read in 2019, which was An Even More Beautiful Lie, the manga I showed you, and that one I'd say was a solid 3 stars. It follows 2 characters. Both of them are in art school. They're I'm not sure if it's just like an art college or if it's like just a regular college and they take art classes. Not 100% sure. I'm not sure if it was even specified. It may have been, I just overlooked it, but it was kind of like Artception because a manga is art and you're seeing art inside of a work of art technically. But the main characters, I will say this, for a standalone manga, the characters were developed in a nice way where it wasn't like unbelievable. It wasn't like insta love, and it wasn't like they just developed into a completely different person from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. There was some character development, but it happened, I feel, in a very natural way. There was some drama that was happening that, like, admittedly probably would not happen in real life, but I think it stuck with real life pretty well, and I actually really enjoyed it. But moving on to the rest of the books, I'm going to be talking about all these books in the order that I read them. So closer to the beginning of the year, i.e. probably like October, November, I'm not actually sure. It may have even been September. I don't know. But then up until the end of 2019. So starting off, we are talking about The Invasion, the sequel to The Call. And I still don't know how to say this author's name, so I'm not even gonna try. But anyways, The Call followed our main character Nessa, who has a physical disability, and she basically gives everyone in our little cut off section of Ireland a big middle finger when she not only decides to go to one of the colleges that helps them survive the call, which is basically when people under the age of, I think, 16 or 18, I can't really recall right now, but when people under that age get sucked into the fairy world for 3 human minutes, but it's actually a whole day in fairy time, they get sucked into there and they have to survive, or they either get mutilated and left in fairy, or they die. So, I mean, in all honesty, if I was sucked into this world, I would just want to die. Anyways, she gives everybody the middle finger by going to this college that helps children learn how to survive and what they feel is needed for survival. And in this book, we're following Nessa after she gets back from the call. I'm not really sure how much time passed off the top of my head between the call and the invasion, but we're basically following Nessa as she basically gets taken prisoner. Arrested? I feel like arrested is the right term, but at the same time, it's like, she didn't do anything wrong. She just survived the call. And it's like, anyone who survives the call is supposed to be seen as like a hero in this world, but instead, she's being persecuted for it. And I don't know, and her boyfriend, I can't even remember, Anto, I think his name is. He really pissed me off in this book. In the call, I really liked him. In this book, he pissed me off because he didn't trust Nessa really at all. I mean, like at the beginning, he had faith in the fact that she didn't make a deal with the fairies to get out of this. She survived on her own skill and volition, and it's just, after that point though, when he thought Nessa was dead, it's like, you couldn't wait until she was dead for like 5 minutes before doing what you did. This ending though was a big surprise to me. I really didn't expect it to take the turn that it did. I figured that they had to be together and maybe they would work things out with the government and she wouldn't be thrown in prison, but instead this took a turn that I was not expecting at all, and I sort of love-hate it. And I don't know, I can't really say anything without spoiling something. I will say that I like the call much more than I like this one, but the ending of this one kind of like really like amped up my love for the zoology. I think this is like the perfect Halloween read because these books are so twisted and they do fairies so well, because fairies are dark and creepy and maniacal. And it's just, you don't want to encounter a fairy ever. So I can't really remember my rating for this book. I probably should have my laptop beside me so I can look at that. So give me 1 second. So I ended up giving The Invasion 3 out of 5 stars. And I was also wrong on my rating for An Even More Beautiful Lie. I gave it a 3.5 stars, which I just rounded up to 4 stars on Goodreads because you can't do half stars and it bothers me so much. But yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. I can't remember what I rated the call. I think it got a solid 4 stars. So I definitely didn't like this one as much, but I definitely did enjoy it and was kind of traumatized a little bit. Next, I read Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. This I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Let me tell you, I'm not going to say much about this book except, one, I did love the art style. The art was really nice in this. I'm trying to find a good page to show you, or just a page to show you. Oh, this one. Little creature. So I did like all of the like little spurts of artwork that are in it, and you got like the story that she's writing on some panels. I also liked the fandom forums that she was on for her own work, and the fact that the other main character, what's his name? Wallace? Yeah. He is actually writing a novel version of her work, which I really liked. But at the same time, I have a lot of issues with their relationship. She was kind of, her secret came out. Like, everyone found out who she was. Like, I can't even remember, somewhere in this book. I don't know if it was midway through or past that. But everyone found out who she was, and she purposely kept her identity a secret because she can't deal with the stress and the pressure that comes with making such a popular webcomic. And it's just, he puts unnecessary pressure on her because his novelization of the book was going to be published, and it could only be published if she finished the work. And that just caused like a rift that I didn't feel needed to happen, because yes, this is his dream and it's something that he can get done, that his parents can't say that he's no good at, that he can't go to college for it. But at the same time, that was no reason to put that kind of pressure on her. And then the other problem I'm not really going to talk about because it is spoilers, is where she went towards the end of the book there, and they had their reconnection. I felt it was too forced, because it was done in a location that was going to get a very emotional response from him, and not a good one. And it was one of those moments where I just took a step back from the book, and I was like, if I was in this situation, in either person's perspective, one, he's done a lot of crap that I felt like it wasn't going to be a healthy relationship. On her end, I felt like it wasn't, her circumstances could have been a lot worse. Let's just put it that way. Her circumstances could have been so much worse, and she was taking the turns that she was. And I didn't feel like it was a healthy relationship. I actually felt like both of these characters needed counseling. Then next, I read The Trials of Apollo, The Tyrant's Tomb by Rick Riordan. I love this book. I have discussion videos up for this book. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2, but I'll leave them in the description. So I don't really need to talk about this book. I gave it, let me see, what did I give this? Did I give it a 4 or 5 stars? I gave this book a 5 stars, which is not surprising to me at all, because it's Rick Riordan. I love his snarkiness and his humor, and this book had a lot of stuff about Apollo that I did not know, so I did enjoy learning something new. Next up, I reread Sapiens vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Probably one of the only Becky Albertalli books that I've actually been able to tolerate, and I actually lowered the rating from a 4 stars to a 3 stars, because there was a lot of problems that I saw with the book that I caught this time around. When I first read it, I was just like so hyped up on it, and I had less reading experience. This time, I saw quite a few problems that I had, and there was relationships that were forming that I was more okay with than the relationships that happened. I also wanted to see the 2 main characters get to know each other outside of talking to each other through emails. That would have been very nice. I don't know, I feel like this is the only Becky Albertalli book that's actually worth picking up and reading, and is actually worth a sequel, but a sequel that follows the same 2 main characters from this book. Next up, I have The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. I gave this a 1 star. This main character, I can't even remember her name, Molly. She's a whiny brat that doesn't even have the right to call herself a main character, because she's just horrible. I don't like her. If I wanted to hear someone whine, I would take all of Kai's toys away and not give him any treats. That's a surefire way of getting my dog to whine. So I did not need this. For I don't know how long this book was, but I did not need to hear the constant whining and boy hungriness of this girl. I did not. Why do we need a book, really, that is all about getting a boyfriend? I haven't dated anyone in, I would say, about 10 years now. When I was in high school was the last time I actually physically dated anyone. And you know what? I'm fine. My sister-in-law actually asked me, or she made the comment at Christmas time that we needed to set me up with someone, and I told her I didn't want a guy, that they were too needy. And then my brother proceeded to ask, what about a girl? And I was like, also too needy. I have Kai anyways. I don't need anybody. Besides that, my life is too hectic for a relationship right now anyways, so it wouldn't be fair to whoever I was dating to date them, because it would just, I wouldn't have enough time for them. Oh, there's also this comment that being a slut just meant you were normal, and I put as a comment on there, slut, not normal and not a compliment. I can't remember the context in which that was said, but my comment says enough. Then I have another one on here that says, let's see, this phrase, yeah, I don't know, I'd say he's the kind of guy you marry, but not the kind of guy you date or have sex with. What does that mean? What does that mean? Because if you marry them, you're going to be having sex with them, you're going to go on dates with them, so why are those 2 things different? I don't understand. And then this one. Because chubby girls don't get boyfriends, and they definitely don't have sex. Not in movies, not really, unless it's supposed to be a joke. And I don't want to be a joke. As someone that is overweight because I'm not overweight by choice. I'm not overweight because I eat a lot. I'm overweight because my body is so stressed out, and this is how my body reacts to stress. So that comment was like a slap to the face. Why would anyone ever rate this book over a 1 star? I'd give it a 0 stars if I could, but I can't. But this book just had so many body issues as well. And as someone who is overweight and has been overweight for a while, I get boyfriends. I haven't had sex yet, but I've had boyfriends. I think this was basically Becky Arpitali trying to put herself into a teenager's mind. Either that, or she had these same thoughts when she was a teenager and she just put it in book form. And in all honesty, if that's the case, I feel bad for her because this is not how life works, and people are attracted to all kinds of different things. And I have a cousin who's actually attracted to bigger women. He was as skinny as a rail, and he just liked his women a lot bigger than others. Everyone's attracted to something different. And it's just, you can't put in here that chubby girls don't get boyfriends, because if I was, let's say I go back to when I was 16 and I picked up this book, I would be so hurt and discouraged on ever being in a relationship with anybody, because I would think that they found me ugly and unattractive. If I could burn this book, I would, honestly. Actually, you know, there's a trash barrel outside. I can burn this book. I'm not going to do that on film because it's too windy out to burn right now. Actually, I may do this on film later. Can I? I'm not gonna burn it right now. But I'm actually considering burning this book. On a happier note, I have Red, White, and Royal Blue by Cassie McQuestion. I probably said that wrong, but I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a very slow-paced political book, but this is one of my favorite LGBTQ books I've ever read. It took me so long to read it, but I love it. The relationship is so adorable. All the things they were doing is a perfect blend of like politicalness and fluffy romance, I guess is a good way of putting it. It's so adorable, and they go from this hate relationship to a love-hate relationship to a just like, I want to get in your pants relationship, then to love. And I just love the steps it takes, and it just does it so well, and I love it. I honestly didn't want this book to end, which is why I think it took me so long to read it at first. A perfect example of my excitement is like when they first kiss, or at least I think it's the first time. I can't remember now off the top of my head. It's been a while. But it's like on page 132, and they're like going at each other, and my note literally just says, yes, yes, oh my god, yes. And that's just like, that's my excitement level for this book like the entire time. Yes, some of the political stuff kind of dragged a little bit because it's political stuff. It's going to drag. But it was just so cute, and I loved it, and it's just like, this became one of my favorite books. Next up, I read Catwoman by Sarah J. Maas, my first Sarah J. Maas book, and I have to say, I actually enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to go too much in detail of it because this is just the story of Catwoman, how she got started, and it adds like a lot of different elements into the story to make Catwoman the same she is. It kept her, like, her character, but it also just developed her. And so I had to find her in my review for this, because how in the heck did I phrase this? The way I phrase this in my review is that I personally think Maas did a great job capturing the part of her character where she's not a bad person, she's not evil, she's not like the Joker or Harley Quinn, but she's also not inherently good either. So she's kind of like Poison Ivy. She stays out of everyone's way unless it's something to benefit her or like her cause. So in this case, it's her little sister, and it's just her constantly fighting for her sister, giving her life for her sister, and it's just like the whole thing is just been for her sister, and it's just done in such a way that I absolutely love it. And the romance was done in a way that I was kind of like, can we please get off like the preppy girl like exterior you're putting on? And I kind of wish we had gotten to see her make the revelation that she did, but we were kind of in I can't remember his point of view, bat something. Batwing. Is there an actual Batwing in the comics? I don't read the comics because there's just way too much of them. I've read a few of them, and I never came across Batwing. So if there is a Batwing, let me know. But yes, I actually surprisingly enjoyed this. I didn't think I would, considering everything everyone said about Sarah J. Maas's books. But like I said, it's a solid 3 out of 5 stars, and I'm glad I gave it a chance. Next up we have Armada by Ernest Cline, and I will start this off by saying it was a 3 out of 5 stars, and I did not like it as much as Ready Player One. I like the premise of it. The premise of it was really solid, I feel, but at the same time, everything made sense. I'm not saying that, like, the way everything was working out didn't make sense, that the leads, the false deaths, everything that was being done didn't make sense. I'm just saying that it was done way too quickly. This book, I think, takes place over, the majority of it takes place over like 2 days. Mostly that second day. But it happened way too quickly. And then we got to know a character that, you know, we were rooting for, we were hoping would survive, and in the end it just wasn't enough. There's a part in this book about leaving children without their father, and I think a lot of books do that. And this one does it it does it in such a way that it's fantastic, but I hate it at the same time because it happens more than once, and it's heart-wrenching. I also have to say that this book does something that a lot of YA books don't do, and they include a lot of parents, which is something I really did enjoy, and I hope to see more of in a lot of books. It's just, I don't know. I can't really. This book is about an alien invasion. The main character, Zach Lightman, he is one of the best video game players of this video game called Armada, and is actually a training simulator for the government so that they can pick out who's going to be the best and who can help them fight against this alien invasion. I'm not going to go into the alien invasion because it seems like there's a lot more behind it than there actually is, and there could be a sequel to this book. Is there going to be? I doubt it. But there could be one. And I really liked the way they set all of that up. But at the same time, it's like I don't know. It's just, I wanted more, and I wanted to be less fast-paced. Then next we have The Maze Runner. This is actually a reread. I think I read it like 2 to 3 years ago. So it had been a while. And I will say I still gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. So it still has the same rating. But the first time I read it, I finished it so quickly. And there was circumstances to that because me and my sister were planning on watching the movies, and I needed to finish this book and The Scorched Trials before we could actually watch them because I needed to. But this book this time was a lot slower. I actually just did a reading vlog, and I kind of talk somewhat about all of my thoughts while I'm reading this book. So if you guys really want to know, like, my thoughts at certain points of the book, you can go check out those videos. I'll leave them linked in the description box below if I remember that as well. It was just so much slower this time around. I mean, getting to follow Thomas in the maze and to meet all the other characters was a lot of nostalgia, but at the same time, it's like one of those things where I was like, can we just slow it down more? It's like, I know it's already going pretty slow, and it's taken me forever to read this book, but can we please, like, slow it down even more so I can just, like, stay with these characters and stay in this maze? I mean, I actually liked staying in the maze. I felt like they didn't figure it out too quickly. It was more or less that they never would have figured out how to exit this maze without the creators, like, pushing the information to them, like giving them information through people and circumstances and the grievers and whatnot. So I just feel like Thomas should have spent more time in the maze. I understand why they did everything so quickly, because the brain has to respond in certain ways, and that's what they were studying, is the brain. But at the same time, it was kind of like, couldn't they, if Thomas was like the most important person in this like experiment they were doing, couldn't they have given him a little bit more time to like fully adjust, like say a month in the maze, and then like, you know, started all these circumstances and such? But regardless of how slow the book was this time, I still really enjoyed it. And I had to refrain from like reading The Scorched Trials. I will probably never reread The Death Cure, but The Scorched Trials, maybe. Then last up, I have The Door That Led to Air by Sally Gardner. And this book surprised me in the fact that there was actually a lot of thought that went into like the time travel aspect of this book, and I thought it did it really well. At the same time, there wasn't near as much like character development as I would have wanted, and I also, there's a lot of things like in the time travel aspect that was kind of worked weird. I talk about it more in my reading vlog, but it's just like the friends. I don't see how their being in the past didn't change something drastically. Same with people going to the future. I don't see how that didn't change things drastically, but more so the past. And I also felt like the ending of this was really rushed and kind of a little bit forced. I felt like another 50 pages would have fleshed everything out so much better. Mainly with the mother. The mother was the main concern there. But I wish I could talk more about it, but my battery is literally flashing at me. What rating did I give that book? I gave The Door That Led to Where 3 out of 5 stars. It was a solid book, but it wasn't, the things with the mothers wasn't fleshed out enough, and it needed quite a bit more working, in my opinion. But yeah, these are all of the books that I read. There's a lot. I can't even get them all on one screen. But that's a lot of books in however many months it's been since my last wrap up. I am going to try harder not to do this again. Like maybe every 4 books or every series. I don't know. I'm going to do something. It's going to be better this time. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!